Aw man, I did not think it was possible, but if it's coming from Elliotte Friedman, then I would say there's probably some merit in terms of actually discussing it, which is why we're making a video about it here today. Now, when it comes to Taylor Hall, I could honestly think of like 3 video topics around this guy's name. One of them actually is not really a topic, but it's just a suggestion, a question. It's about the Taylor Hall sweepstakes, first overall, Arizona Coyotes tanking for Lafreniere, you know, that whole thing. But the other videos that we can talk about when it comes to making something about Taylor Hall usually revolve around the idea of free agency, and what this guy is going to do if the Arizona Coyotes, by any means, are not able to re-sign this player and he walks. Which, you know, I don't want to be a pessimist or anything, but I would say I probably wouldn't be surprised if Taylor Hall ended up becoming a free agent and not signing a contract with the Yotes. I don't know if I'm going to be too alone on that, but that's just what I think. But when it comes to the idea as to whether or not Taylor Hall is going to be a UFA, another big discussion normally brings itself up into the picture when you mention an idea like that. If he's a UFA, where does he go? Does Taylor Hall go to a team that is willing to shell out the big bucks for a 28-year-old who is a former Hart winner, who has been slowed down by missing a whole bunch of time, not really actually allowing himself to reach that same tier of hockey player that he was when he scored 93 points in 76 games for the Devils in 2018? He's had some time on, he's had some time off, but for the most part when he is in the lineup, he's good, and he scores, and he gets points. So this is a kind of player who is set to probably locking in profits and securing a maybe 7-year deal. But the question always is, who's willing to do that? Well, according to Elliotte Friedman on the Writers Bloc podcast, which is on the Sportsnet website, you can check that out, I'll leave a link in the description below. Friedman said this, and this is kind of why I'm making this entire video here in the first place. On the Writers Bloc podcast, Friedman said that if there is any UFA that is going to go off the board to put themselves in a winning position, it would be Taylor Hall. Hall has been in a lot of losing positions, and he is tired of it. He's made a lot of money in his career, and winning is his #1 priority now. Oh man. Is Taylor Hall going to take a cheap contract to sign with a playoff cup contending team next year? This could be an absolute fleecing of a contract depending on whichever team is out there wanting to sign Taylor Hall for his services. And this could not have come at a better time, in a world where the salary cap is no longer going up and it's staying at a flat cap for the next few years. This will give teams who are in a playoff bubble, who are in a Stanley Cup contention bubble, all the more reason to go out there and try to sign a Taylor Hall for cheap. Because when it comes to these big expensive teams with these big expensive players and contracts, it's going to be difficult as the years go on to try to keep your elite talent together. It's not easy for good teams to remain good and keep the players that make them good as their contracts expire and they need to get extensions. So Taylor Hall could be an answer to any one of these teams if he is willing to go out there and say, you know what? I want to win. Give me a $1 million contract. I'll sign it. I'll join your team. Let's win a Stanley Cup together. And just thinking about the possibilities gets me super, super anxious. A lot of comments in this one particular Twitter post mention the Colorado Avalanche as a potential suitor for Taylor Hall, not just because they have the cap space, which believe me, they do have the cap space. Even if Taylor Hall was expecting a lot of money, they probably would have been able to sign him anyway. But they're one of the teams that pops into this conversation when taking a look at high-profile, skilled, already elite teams that could very well become borderline guaranteed to at least make it to the 3rd round if a Taylor Hall joins up on their squad. And that's just one team. There are 30 other NHL teams aside from that team, and not to mention, I guess the Coyotes too, so 29 other teams that could be a potential suitor for Hall as well. And I'm just so interested in seeing the possibilities on whether or not he takes a legitimately team-friendly deal. Although I will say, when it comes to teams that Taylor Hall does have a chance to go to, it's usually the normal subjects that come up in that conversation. As we mentioned, Colorado and other teams like Pittsburgh, like Montreal. Tampa Bay, maybe even the Leafs. There is one team out there who, if I take a look at it, I don't see this guy signing with at all, and that team is the Edmonton Oilers. Let's go over onto Reddit and take a look at the Reddit post of the tweet that we just looked at, talking about Friedman on the Writers Bloc podcast. Starship Coyote says, come home to the Oilers on a nice sweetheart deal now that that guy is gone, obviously referring to Peter Chiarelli. And the reply over here from a user named Resistible kind of tells a little bit of a different picture as to why Taylor Hall probably wouldn't want to go back to Edmonton. When Hall came over to the Devils, he was pretty annoyed at how the Edmonton media portrayed him, and felt betrayed by the fans there. I think Edmonton is dead last on the teams that he would play for. Robo Ninja replies, I have to agree. He even admitted that he was not pulling for the Oilers in the playoffs when the Oilers made it. Definitely sour. That's just one perspective, though. The other reply from Jarvis Funk says that's not true at all. The management said yes, the media yes to an extent. Hall has openly said he loves Edmonton and the fans and would be happy to come back. It's not even a secret at this point. Don't even think we can fit him anyway, so it's irrelevant. So that is a little bit of a contradicting perspective over here on Taylor Hall and the Oilers, but I will say, if Taylor Hall finds his way back in Oiltown, things could be very, very interesting. McDavid Hall wasn't super amazing when they were there the first time because McDavid was really good, but Hall just couldn't really get it together in the same way that he did in New Jersey afterwards. But Taylor Hall now, in my opinion, is better than Taylor Hall was before. So if this guy is able to go over to Edmonton and actually do things to the same level as the Hart-winning Taylor Hall was able to do them in New Jersey in 2018, this could be literally a team of 3 Hart Trophy caliber players. McDavid, Draisaitl, Hall, not to mention the additions of the other guys who are really strong as well, like Yamamoto, Darnell Nurse, who has been really stepping up his game, Nugent-Hopkins over there with 60-ish points, James Neal getting maybe 20 goals again. All of a sudden, the Oilers are in a position where if they were not a cup contender before, then man, oh man, I think they would be then. However, there are some other teams that do bring themselves in this discussion, and just because Taylor Hall may be willing to take a cheaper deal to go with a better team, it does not mean that the possibility that another team that is not as good, let's just say, is completely out of the running of a Taylor Hall sweepstakes as well. I've been seeing a lot of Buffalo Sabres fans out there talking about how Taylor Hall could bring some things to that organization, and because Buffalo is one of the teams that could, let's just say, have a little bit more cap space than others, they would be willing to shell out a little bit more of a dollar for any premier superstars. Obviously, though, that perspective does kind of contradict the entire idea of this video, but of course it is something that we can still talk about, because if Jack Eichel wants to start winning hockey games, then they can add whoever it is they take at 7th overall, and whoever they are able to get in free agency. If that is Taylor Hall, then man, this team could be good. Some of these other teams are so close, like literally a piece or two away from just taking that next step. And with all the stars aligning in that city, honestly, to me, if you said that Buffalo would be a good bet towards becoming better, there'd be a lot happening with that organization that would make me believe you. So certainly that does bring itself as a possibility as well. But talk to me in the comments below. What do you think about this Taylor Hall idea? The idea of him going with an expensive team because he is willing to take a pay cut because he wants to win that badly. There are certainly a whole bunch of NHL teams out there that do have at least maybe $1 million or $2 million or maybe even $5 million in projected cap space that I would absolutely hate it if Taylor Hall went to. Do I want to see Hall with Crosby and Malkin? No. Do I want to see Hall with Stamkos and Kucherov? No. Do I want to see Hall out there doing things that a superstar should be doing on a team already full of superstars? No, but obviously, it is his own right to discuss that, so talk to me in the comments below what you think about this idea of Taylor Hall taking a cheaper contract, and if it's your own favorite team that goes after this kind of guy, what can a Taylor Hall do for your franchise? I want you to tell me in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed this video. Also, I'll leave a link in the description down below to the podcast that Elliotte Friedman was on that had this little excerpt. Social-99, and bye.